What's up, 11 o'clock forefront? Listen, there's been so much shenanigans up here. I don't even know what to do right now. Um, y'all feeling good though? You look like you're feeling good. There's life in your face. Look, because I asked 9 o'clock how they were doing, and I got nothing. 9 o'clock is, you guys are crushing it this morning. I'm excited to be up here sharing with you. Last week, Jason kicked off a series that we are in right now called Mirror, Mirror, and he was walking us through anxiety and some mental illness stuff and talking a little bit about what the Bible has to say about it, and it was some really heavy stuff. So I thought this week I would kind of lighten it up a little bit, and so today we're going to talk about sadness and depression. So, woo. But no, we're going to hopefully have a good time learning some stuff this morning and hanging out. It might get a little heavy at some points, but that's okay. We're going to get through this together. It's an important thing for us to talk about. And, it occurs to me, I don't know if you guys know this, but it is okay to be sad sometimes. Not everybody can be happy all the time. I don't know if I know you guys know that one person that you're like, that you don't know, Chris, that dude is happy all the time, or that girl is happy all the time. No, you just haven't seen it. Nobody can be happy all the time. Not even Kanye West can be happy all the time. And, we're going to actually look at this, because I got a game for you guys to play. Do you want to play a game this morning? All right. My faithful assistant, Murray, in the back, we're going to play a game called Is Kanye Smiling? So this is how it works. Murray, let's see the next frame. We're going to look at Kanye West's eyes. Now, I need to see hands up if you think in this full picture Kanye is smiling. Is Kanye smiling? Put some hands up. All right, not too many people have faith in Kanye smiling. Murray, let's see it. No, Kanye is not smiling in this picture. Let's go to the next one. Let's check out these eyes. Do these eyes look like a smiling Kanye? Hands up if you think. All right, Murray, let's see. No, man. Kanye is mean mugging. He is not. I'm starting to worry about him. Why can't you just be happy, Kanye? Let's take a look one more here. Let's see these eyes. Is Kanye smiling? Hand up if you think Kanye is smiling. Let's see what we got. Hey! I was worried about him. But yeah, Kanye, good for you, bud. He's smiling. But that's, I like silly games like that. That's a game that we actually did with our students at Collide. And so I was trying to think of a fun little mix-up for us to do. The other game option was to have you guys come up here and do like a whip or nay-nay contest. And I was like, not going to happen. So we went with, is Kanye smiling? And finally we got him, and he was smiling. So happy for Kanye. But really, it's okay to not be happy all the time. It's okay to be sad sometimes. And I'll never forget when this light bulb went off in my head. It was a few years ago, and I was going through some stuff, struggling with some heartache from a broken relationship, struggling with some bitterness from a job that I had lost. And it got to the point where I found myself sitting in a therapist's office. And ironic for me, because at the time I was also a therapist. I was an intern learning. And I remember sitting in this guy's office, and I'm like, here's the deal, man. Like, this went wrong, and I'm not happy, and I'm being a jerk to people. And after I explained everything that was going on, he looked at me, and he's like, yeah, man, like, that would make me sad. And I was like, no, you're supposed to help me feel better. And he's like, no, like, you're supposed to be sad about this. And I really walked out thinking, like, man, there are some times where things happen where being sad is the appropriate response. But what I've noticed for myself and what I've noticed for people that I've watched, and we're going to get deeper and deeper into my story as we go, because this is my week to just bear all for you. But what I've noticed is when something happens that stirs us up and makes us sad or upset, we tend to want to run away from it. We tend to want to distract ourselves from it. We get ourselves in a little bit of trouble, or we go buy things that we don't need. We go on trips that we don't have time for. We get into some trouble, whatever it is. But when we wrestle with that sadness, for whatever reason, we try to escape right away because feeling sad does not feel good at all, and we don't want to deal with it. But what I walked away from that time with my counselor was the thought that sometimes being sad is appropriate. Like, sad situations are appropriate to bring sad feelings. And I want to share with you guys a verse that comes out of Matthew 5:4, because Jesus kind of spoke about this. Jesus said, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, this passage used to give me a really hard time. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't give me a hard time sometimes now, because for me, the idea is, how is there a blessing when I'm mourning? Like, mourning, by definition, means something bad has happened and I'm dealing with it. A heartache, a lost job, a broken friendship, the passing of a relative or loved one. Mourning is not usually associated with comfort. But what we learn from this, when Jesus is talking to these people, he's like, I know that when you are sad and when a moment hits you, that you have the option to run around distracted, to run around giving into your vices, to run around getting into trouble. But if you will simply mourn, you will find comfort. Comfort is provided for people who mourn. And so I wonder, in moments of sadness for myself, for y'all, for people that we know, if we're sitting around and we're wondering why God is not comforting us in our sorrow or in our sadness, and the answer is we're not leaving room for him to do that. We're trying to comfort ourselves through our distractions, trying to comfort ourselves through the vices that we give into, or by the trips we go on, or the things that we buy. Now, depression, which is my fun topic for today, depression is very different from being sad. Like I was just saying a moment ago, sadness is kind of a normal thing. When something bad happens or something sad happens, to feel sad is natural and okay, even though we try to run from it. Depression, however, occurs when someone is in a deep sadness to which there really is no explanation. And I know I'm talking to some of y'all today who are there, and I know I'm talking to some of y'all today who love someone who's there, and so I hope that if you guys will go with me, we can find some peace together. But that kind of depression usually comes from one or two places. Sometimes it's something that's going on in the body physically, and sometimes it's that there are things going on around us, but we do not have the ability to cope. And then we find ourselves in a deep, dark depression. And, you know, depression is a word that we tend to throw around pretty easily. Like, you're sitting there like, oh, man, did you see that game last night? Yo, our team, that was depressing. Or, man, like, me and my boys were trying to go out, see this show. We couldn't get tickets, man. Like, that's depressing. I think because of the fact that that word gets used as casually as it does in that way, that we lose the meaning of it. This is what real depression sounds like. It's, yo, I just called into work for the 5th day in a row because I can't get out of bed. Yo, I'm so depressed, man. My house is just a mess because I don't have the energy to get up and pick anything up. Man, I'm so depressed, like I just cry for no reason around people for no explanation, and because of that, I got to stay away from everybody. Man, I'm so depressed. The only thing that makes sense for me to do is to end my life to escape this misery. And that's what depression sounds like. You know, depression is something that we see even in our Bibles. One of the things I think a lot of us wrestle with, whether you're a Christian today or you're not, one of the things that we all, I think, have wrestled with at some point is, how does God fit into the picture? How does God fit into depression even existing? Well, depression is in the Bible. There are people in the Bible who struggle with depression. You go to the Old Testament, you can read a story about a man named Jonah. And Jonah was given a mission from God. God said, hey, I need you to go talk to these people. They're acting like fools. I need you to go tell them to get it together. He didn't want to do it. Now, y'all ever had to do something that you just like, I'm not trying to do that right now? That was Jonah. He was given this mission. He didn't want to go do it. He eventually follows through, does what he's supposed to do. But even at the end, there's a moment in his story where he's complaining to God about doing this thing that he didn't want to do. And he says, God, it would be better for me right now if you would just take my life. So if you've ever sat through depression, if you've ever sat through suicidal thinking, if you've ever sat with somebody who's there, the Bible says, yes, that's people struggle with that. It's in here. You can read about it. You're not alone. You go to the New Testament, and there's a man by the name of Judas. Judas was a follower of Jesus. Jesus was doing his ministry, walking around, teaching people, healing people, helping people, and Judas had his back on that. He was right there with them. But there came a point in Jesus' life where Judas became backstabby. Y'all know backstabby people? That's my word. You can use it if you like. But Judas became backstabby. And if you continue to read through Jesus' story in the New Testament, it comes to a point where people are looking for Jesus. They want to arrest him. They want to put him to death. And the only way they got to him is because Judas got backstabby and sold him out. Judas sold him out for some money, said, hey, thanks for the money. Here's where Jesus is at. And as you read the rest of the story, they eventually find Jesus and put him to death. Now, what this does is it crushes Judas, because you keep reading the story and you'll see that Judas ended up hanging himself. It's easy to look on that story and be like, well, Judas was a bad dude. My point is, if you don't think the Bible is full of people who wrestle with guilt and shame and struggle and depression and suicidal thoughts, you need to read more of it. Now, I don't try to undermine anybody who's going through a struggle. I'm not trying to talk about it up here and make jokes along the way so that you guys don't take it seriously. It's very serious. So I'll tell you a little more of my story. I mentioned that I'd seen a counselor, and the reason I was going is because I was not able to cope with my circumstances. I was nurturing a broken heart, making sense of why I had lost a job that I thought I was built to do. And I just had an overall hopelessness about my situation. I was terrible to people in my life. I still probably have a lot of apologies to give to people for what I was going through back then. And I didn't cope. I was making bad decisions. I'm not getting into those right now because y'all need to know about that. But I was making some bad decisions. And so finally it landed me to a spot where I remember I woke up and I said, today, Chris, you're going to accept that you can go this way, keep feeling the way you've been feeling, keep making the decisions you've been making, or you can go this way and get some help, but you have to make a choice. You can't keep battling. And I did make the choice to go this way, got in with a good counselor, got in with a good doctor, started getting on some medicine, and it helped me. Now, a lot of times, and I struggle with this myself, a lot of times when we get to that point, it's a struggle. Like, medicine, like long-term counseling with somebody. I had every excuse in the book. I was like, I'm broke. I don't have any insurance. I don't got time for this because I was working really hard trying to finish up my internship stuff that I was doing. And I was like, plus, I ain't trying to deal. I had every excuse in the book. And I think it's when you get to a point where it's time to make a big decision that all the excuses show up. But I went, and I want to make sure that I'm clear, too, as I keep going. I'm not saying that medicine is the right answer for everybody in every circumstance. I know for me, it was. And for me, that was a big pride point to let go of. I kind of look at it this way. If you were to break your arm, say you're out there doing those dope kick flips on your skateboard, I would get a broken arm looking at a skateboard. I don't even mess with that stuff. But if you're in a position where you break your arm, you're going to go to the doctor. Unless you're a crazy daredevil type person, you're going to go to the doctor. You're going to ask him to take an x-ray. You're going to let him put a cast on you. You're going to let him give you pain medicine so that you can heal up. It's because your body is made up of bones and magnificent body parts that allow you to do all the crazy things you want to do on that skateboard to begin with. You were created that way, but when something compromises that system, we go get help. It's necessary. Well, in the same way, your mind is an emotional system, but it's made out of body parts. It's your brain. Your brain is an organ in the body. And I'm going to give y'all a quick science lesson, all right? Y'all didn't come to church thinking you were getting a science lesson, but you're going to get a science lesson. Your brain produces chemicals that regulate your moods. There are three big ones. They're called serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. I call them Sarah, Nora, and Dopey for short, all right? So Sarah, Nora, and Dopey are part of what's going on. Dopey's always going on in my brain. But Sarah, Nora, and Dopey are what are flowing in your brain. In fact, dopamine is a chemical that your brain uses to kind of teach you what's good and bad for you or what brings you pleasure. So like you eat that, amazing bacon cheeseburger, your brain releases dopamine and says, I like this, let's do this again. Okay? That's what your brain does. But that's because you have an organ in your body, in your head, your brain. It regulates all these chemicals, and when everything is syncing up, you're able to regulate your moods in a healthy way. But if something goes on where that's not possible, that's when you start experiencing that high anxiety, that low depression, where people are like, dude, what are you stressing out about? Everything in your life is good. Everything in your life could be good, but the brain has got these chemicals going back and forth, and it's not going in a good way. And so just like when you break your arm, you go get a cast. If you are struggling with those types of symptoms where you are anxious all the time, you are depressed all the time, you have no energy all the time, and you can't even figure out why you would feel that way, it is okay to go find a doctor and say, hey, something is not right here. I'm fortunate the doctor that I found cares for mind, body, and soul, and she would pray with me and talk with me about things going on in my life. And I encourage you guys to find that type of doctor, because I'm not going to front. There are some doctors who say, all right, you're sad, you're tired here, man, you need these pills. I don't go that way. And when I treat people for depression as a therapist, I don't always jump to medicine right away. But I don't want people to be ashamed if that's something that they have to do, because I had to do it. I believe that it saved my life to get on medicine. Like, I do it. So I'm putting that out there for y'all to know, so that if you're sitting there thinking maybe you need to get some help, you know you are not the only one in the room. It's crazy. I was actually really excited to hear Jason talk last week. He did a great job of reminding us. I actually stole one of his slides. That's how good he did. So he made this last week, and I put it up in mine because I was like, that's real smart. But he told us hey, give credit where credit is due. But he told us last week that mental health is not a character defect, a spiritual disorder, or an emotional dysfunction. But most of all, it's not a choice. I want you to hear that, because if you're in the room today and you're like, dude, I'm that depressed dude. I'm the dude that keeps calling into work. I'm the dude that can't get up and do a simple thing around the house. I want you to know that it doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're making a choice to be that way. But what I would submit to you is that you do have a choice with what you do with that knowledge. You do have a choice with what you do to that knowledge. And so I began taking medication. Like I told you, I got lucky. I got a real good doctor. She cared for me in a holistic way. The counselor that I saw helped me process some of the things that happened around me, showed me where I could change and what kind of steps I could take. And I remember, very odd, one morning I woke up, probably a month or two after seeing this counselor and taking this medicine, and I woke up and I went to get ready in the morning, and I looked in the mirror and I was smiling. And like, I hadn't experienced that in a long time. Like, my mom is here, and my mom, she'll tell you, like, my face is always just dead. Like, that's just how I am. But I remember, like, I started feeling better, and I couldn't explain it. Other than that, I had made these choices, and I had some good people helping me. I share all of this with you because I know in this room, some of us are on different places on the spectrum. Some of y'all are dealing with that sad stuff because some sad or bad things have happened. Some of y'all are dealing with that deep depression that you can't explain at all. Some of you are in that place where you're resisting getting help. And some of y'all are in a place where you have said, okay, I'm going to get help, and you're managing that. And if you're not in any of those spots, somebody in your life is, and you know that. It's important for us that we talk about this stuff, because when we don't talk about it, shame comes along. So a person who's dealing with anxiety, a person who's dealing with depression, a person who's dealing with mental illness, there's a huge amount of shame that comes along. Shame that makes them feel unable to connect with people. Shame that makes them feel unable to connect to God. Shame that makes them feel like they are no good. I can remember a time when I was in high school, and it's crazy because as an adult who started learning about depression and started being treated for depression, I've been able to look back over things I experienced in high school, and I'm like, yo, that was depression. You just didn't know that was depression, and it wasn't as bad as it got to be, so I didn't deal with it then. But I remember a time I'm probably 16 or 17 years old, and I'm hanging out with one of my good friends. I'm at her house, and we're just chilling and talking. She had a little tree house in her backyard, and so we're out there just, hanging out and talking. And I was telling her, I was like, look, when I'm hanging out with all you guys, after a little while, I just feel weird. I feel like I don't fit in. I feel like something is wrong with me. And I was like, and I don't get it. And as she's hearing me and talk, she's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're great, you're funny, you're cool, we all like having you around. She's like, you're just making stuff up. I was like, I'm not. Like, that's how I feel. That's what I struggle with. And I can look back on it now and I say, you know what? That's what depression and anxiety does, though, is it puts you in a position where you feel like everybody is looking at you a certain way, and they're not. It's the way you feel about yourself. It puts shame. I want you guys to check this out, because this is what shame does. Shame says, something is wrong with me. My life is hopeless. No one, not even God, understands me. Some of y'all know exactly what that feels like. Some of y'all feel that way today. It says, something is wrong with me and my life is hopeless. No one, not even God, understands me. But what God says is, I am here to heal the broken heart and to bind up your wounds. I want you to hear that again, especially if you're struggling with the top statement. I am here to heal the broken heart and bind up your wounds. That concept comes out of a passage in the book of Psalm. Psalm 147 verse 3 says it. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Now go back to the kid who broke his arm on the skateboard. He has the wounds. He needs the cast. He needs the pain medicine. But if he just sits, he doesn't get it. Like, to get your wounds bound up, you have to present yourself to somebody who can bind it up. And God says, I'm here. I want to heal the broken heart. I want to bind up the wounds, but you have to give it to me. Jesus said earlier, we looked at it, blessed are those who mourn because they will be comforted. But when we distract ourselves, when we don't take our pain seriously, when we go out of our way to do whatever it takes to not think about it, we're not presenting ourselves to get our wounds fixed. And I'm not lecturing anybody in this room as much as I'm trying to keep myself in check right now. God desires to heal us. God desires to bind the wounds. So if you are in the middle of this, what can you do? I want to give you just 3 small thoughts. First thing I want you to do is just breathe. Like, when you wake up in the morning, you just take a breath. Like, you are alive and you are well and you're here. After that, I want you to move. Get up. It's hard. I know it's hard, but get up. The first thing I tell people who do when they come see me at the practice and we're dealing with issues of depression is I'm like, you need to take 20 minutes each morning, get you a big old glass of water, and then you need to walk around your block, get some sunlight and move your body. I'm not saying that we're not going to talk about medication. I'm not saying that we're not going to work on some deep therapy, but you need to move your body. And by moving your body, you move your life a little bit. And the next thing you can do is seek help. I don't expect anybody to figure it out for themselves. I didn't figure it out for myself. Seek help. God wants to heal the brokenhearted. He wants to bind up the wounds. Now, if you're in the other side of this and you're like, bro, I'm good. I'm happy for you. What can you do if you have folks in your life who you care about, who you love, who are struggling? I got 3 things for you as well. First thing you can do is comfort. I'm going to just give you an insider tip from a depressed person. When you try to tell us what to do, we think you're stupid. When you sit there and tell us it's the way we feel is bad, We might, because we're your friends, we were like, yeah, in the back of our head, we're like, you stupid. We just need someone to sit there and comfort us. I'm not going to go deep down this. We've talked about it before when I've been up here, but we lost my dad about a year ago. And I can remember a couple months after it happened, I'm hanging out with a friend, and it just hits me like out of nowhere. Like any of you guys who have dealt with grief knows it's not predictable, that you just go about your business and like just out of nowhere things hit you. And so I was in this, like me and we're hanging out like at the beach, we're chilling, and it just hits me. And all this friend could do, and it helped me, is they stood there, held my hand, and just sat with me for a few minutes until I was able to calm down and come back. They didn't come up and say, hey man, like, yo, why you getting all weepy? Like, what's wrong? Like, we're at the beach, dude. Like, none of that happened. And because if it had happened, I'm like, you stupid. Like, that's what would have happened. When somebody is struggling, they just need comfort. The next thing you can do is show them where to get help. Because if you're on that end where you have somebody who's struggling and you have somebody who is coming to you and you're like, you don't understand, man. Like, I'm anxious all the time. I feel crazy. I'm depressed. I want to take my life. Like, the gut reaction might be like, dude, I don't even know what to do with this. And for most of us, that's a good place to land because most of us don't know what to do with that. But we can show people where to get help. Hey, man, like, why don't you come out to church with me? Like, it's a real cool place, meet some good people. Or, hey, like, I know a good doctor you can see, or I know a good counselor, or I'll help you find one. But show them where to go. The next thing you do is walk with them. I remember a friend of mine a few years back. She was dealing with some heavy depression, and she's talking to me about it. And I'm like, you for real need to see a doctor. Like I said, I don't always jump there with people. But after knowing her as long as I had, I was like, you need to go see a doctor. But I don't know where. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I was like, look, I'll go with you. Now, to be fair, that's kind of my bread and butter, so I'm a good dude to take to the doctor with you for that stuff. Some of y'all may not be as helpful in that situation, but I said, let me go with you. I will sit in the lobby with you. I was like, if you want, I will go back and interpret for you as you try to explain what's going on. And for her, that was the push she needed. I didn't have the solution. I didn't do anything to fix her or make her feel better, but I walked alongside of her. You know, in the New Testament, there's a story about a man who was paralyzed, and as Jesus is walking around teaching and healing people, his friends see this going on. They're like, man, we got to get our boy over to Jesus. He's paralyzed. He can't get himself there, but his friends wanted to take him there. Now, he was literally paralyzed, couldn't get up, couldn't move. His body was not functioning, some sort of neurological thing going on there. But I'm going to tell you, when a person is stuck in anxiety and depression and mental illness, their body may be able to move, but they can't move. They're paralyzed. They don't want to go. And it's in moments like that that you need to rally around them, walk with them, and carry them. It's heavy stuff. I'm going to wrap up here shortly. With my story, what ended up happening, this is kind of the way it played out. I had gone through these events that had broken me, and I'm sharing it because I want you to know that if you have a story like this, there's help and there's hope for you, but don't hold on to it. I was going through this, and like when I had my breaking moment, I went to my boss, supervisor at the practice I worked at, crying like a little baby. And like, guys, like we never look okay when we cry. Like sometimes you see a lady crying, you're like, oh. You see a guy crying, you're like, oh. That's just true. Guys do not look good when they cry. But I went to her and I was like, this is what's happening, man. I'm broke. I'm doing stupid things. I'm making bad decisions. I don't even know what I want to do. I just know I don't want to do this anymore. And so she set me up with this counselor. She set me up with this doctor. These are both people who worked at our practice, but they worked in different offices. And she said, look, they're going to see you for free. You need to just go, do what they ask you to do, participate. I was like, cool, got it. Counselor was really good. We hung out for a few sessions. He helped me out. But the doctor blew my mind because, and like, this is a doctor that I refer people to because she's amazing. I go to her office, and again, I'm crying like a little baby. It's not pretty. Explaining the situation to her. And she's this sweet, short little Asian gal. So she just has that like kind-hearted spirit about her. And she looks at me and she says, hey, you're being real silly. I was like, all right. I I'll listen. And she said, you should have come to me for help so long ago. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that I could. And like, I work here, so I didn't even know if that was like against the rules. And she's like, listen to me, you and me, we work at this practice because God has put us here to help people. She said, you help them by counseling them. I help them by getting medication stuff straight for them. And she said, but you and me cannot do this if we do not take care of each other first. And I'm just like, I'm as ugly as it gets. I'm like, you're so right. I wish I had known. And she took good care of me. She's like, I know you don't make any money. I'm going to see you free whenever you need to be seen. She hooked me up with medication. Those of you who have been involved in this sort of thing know that medication providers, they have like sample packs for medication sometimes. So she basically stored up sample packs for me. I still probably have a good 2-year supply in one of my cupboards at home because she wanted to take care of me. She told me that it was okay for me to need help. And so I took it and I got better. I mean, I still struggle sometimes. I still have days that I don't want to be doing the things that I'm doing. I still have a hard time with it all, but I'm much better off. And I have seen in my life where God has come in and he has healed the broken heart. He has bound up the wounds, but I had to put myself in position to be there. And so what my prayer is this morning, guys, is that Forefront would be a place where those of us who are hurting, who are in depression, who are in anxiety, can feel at home and can find a place for our hearts to be healed and a place for our wounds to be bound up. If that's you, my prayer is that you feel at home. And if that's not you, my prayer is that you are working to make this place home. That you are putting yourself in a position where you say, hey, I know you're struggling, I know you're hurting, I'm going to be here. I'm going to comfort you, I'm going to show you how to get help, and I'm going to walk with you. Because if Forefront wants to be a church where people find and follow Jesus, if Forefront wants to be a church that makes a positive impact on this community, we have to take care of each other first. We have to take care of ourselves. Let me pray with you.